What's going on, everyone? It's time for another 80s horror comedy review. Today we're going to talk about a film called My Mom's Werewolf. This is a horror comedy. It was released sometime in May 1989. Stars Susan Buckley, John Saxon. Yeah, that John Saxon. The cop in Black Sun, or was it Black Sunday? Black Christmas, that's what it is. and yeah, or the dad in A Nightmare on Elm Street. He plays in a lot of stuff. And John Schuckel. It was directed by Michael Fisna, who did the iconic Death Spa and Crack House, Rice Girl, and Dead Time Stories Volume 1 and 2. So yeah, so this is a independently made horror comedy made in 1989. So yeah, it's about a housewife who isn't really feeling the love that she did from her husband. So when she goes to a pet shop, she meets this pet shop owner played by John Saxon, and who charms her and takes her out for dinner. And things get a little frisky. Basically, they almost end up banging, and yeah, he ends up biting her, and she's not kind of odd and off-putting. So she goes back home, but she starts experiencing symptoms of werewolf would be. She slowly starts transforming, and her daughter notices, and her friend, and she tries to hide it from her family, but they're too smart for her, and trying to help her find a cure before the rest of the family finds out in town. And of course, ludicrous things start happening. Overall, this film was amusing. It is a cheesy 80s comedy with some really it's family oriented, so it's just like some stupid gags in it and stupid dialogue, but overall I thought the acting wasn't too bad in it, and the story itself was pretty typical and expected, and it does have a wholesome family feel to it. It felt like an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, basically, and stuff like that type of humor. It was shot like a sitcom, though. It did not feel like a big budget movie or anything. And this went to theaters at one point, but yeah, it did not feel like that. It felt like a made-for-TV sitcom, like an extra hour and a half special, not an actual film, which is odd. But still, the acting was good. The humor hit and miss, depends on where your humor style lies at. With me, it wasn't really that great. It had some amusing stuff. The special effects in it were okay. It was definitely low budget TV quality stuff. Like obviously they're wearing rubber masks at the end and stuff. I did like the look of them though, and I thought that was pretty good. This has some good things going for it, but overall it just wasn't really for me, and it wasn't really my type of humor. So I think I have a problem with a lot of this from like some of the older 80s comedies and stuff. Like I reviewed like 10 family comedies and then like pretty much any of them. So I'm not surprised that this wasn't really for me. But overall, I think the premise and the idea is good, and the way they executed it was acceptable for the target audiences they're going for. But overall, I thought it was just pretty dull. So I'm gonna give My Mom's a Werewolf a 2.5 out of 5. Yeah, I'm not sure where it's streaming or anything, but I'll link the trailer down below so you at least check that out. Also, make sure you check out my Instagram. That's where I was post clips of films I'm going to review in the future. All my stories have the film hashtags, subject of film, and hashtags, so you're aware of it. Also, my Letterbox down below, Derek reviews. That's where I post my first star rating after watching the films, and my Letterbox is down below. My Letterbox down below at Derek reviews. That's where I post my first star rating after watching the films. And my Twitter's down below at reviews_Derek. So follow me on those platforms. Stay in loop with this channel. Like this video, share it so more people will ever comment your opinions of the film down below. If you have any films or film franchises and on any streaming service I don't hear my opinions on in the future, comment those down below too. I'll try my best to get to them as soon as I can, and if I can find them. Make sure you subscribe. Hopefully, something weird, obscure, and odd they probably never thought checking out together. And also share my opinions on popular films, some come out, classic films, and reviews on other things as well. And don't forget to ring that bell because we're going to go start reviewing some old classic comedies. Starting off with One Body Too Many from 1944. It's a mystery thriller comedy. So I'll be checking out that in the next review. So make sure you tune in for that. Watch out for all those. Watch out for your parents turning into werewolves because probably happened. And it's most likely already happened before. And I guess I'll see you all in the next review. So until then, cheers.